Welcome back to another review of a spooky movie. This spooky season, we had a movie that was originally planned for theatrical release, that was pulled from theatrical release, and Warner Brothers, in their infinite wisdom, decided to day and date onto streaming this film at the same time as the a critically, commercially panned Joker Folie à Deux. This is Salem's Lot. Yes. Yes. What's up? Welcome back. I'm John Stark from MyMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and obviously I have some thoughts on Warner Brothers' decision to shelve a less expensive Salem's Lot and put it like day and date the same time as Joker Folie à Deux. And Joker Folie à Deux really underperformed, and audiences gave it like the lowest. It had a lower like a lower reaction from audiences. I think it was at Post Track or CinemaScore or whatever. It scored lower than Madam Web. Like, it scored lower than basically like anything, like any other recorded superhero film. Like, it scored lower than Megalopolis. It scored just critically low on the scale. So meanwhile, like, Salem's Lot has like a 50 on Metacritic. So it's just like, maybe audiences would have come out for Salem's Lot about as much as they would have come out for Joker Folie à Deux. I don't know. So yeah, I don't really know what they could have done with Joker except push it back a year and make Todd Phillips re-edit the film. And just take the hit and be like, yeah, we're gonna push this and see if we can make this a better film. I'm surprised that it tested in a way that encouraged them to release it. And then Salem's Lot, also, they were like, yeah, we're gonna push this to max. And I know Stephen King was pissed when he found out. He was like, wait a minute, what the fuck? Because this was originally intended for theatrical. So, which means you would think that it's better. It's not really. I mean, it's okay. In the grand scheme of like Stephen King films, like, you can get a wide range of adaptations in terms of his material getting, all over the place. I mean, I've seen some great Stephen King works, some really classic Stephen King works, even some that aren't even like truly faithful to the source material. I know there are people who are like purists about The Shining and they don't like Stanley Kubrick's version, but those of us that are not insane are able to look at The Shining and be like, man, Stanley Kubrick's direction of this film is like on point. But at the same time, I can't ignore the fact that at the time, critics hated that movie. It was nominated at the first Razzie Awards. Like, they panned it. So, or the second Razzie Awards, one of the Razzie Awards, they nominated The Shining. It's just like, it's baffling to see how much the critics hated The Shining and to know now how well received it is. So, could this happen for Salem's Lot? I don't know. It's the third time this has been adapted. I haven't seen either of the previous versions. That neither of them have audio description, so it doesn't help. Some people, they come at me and they're like, "Whoa, did you see the previous version?" And I was like, "Because it doesn't have audio description." I reviewed The Killer, John Woo's The Killer, and somebody came at me in the audio description in the comments. I'm like, I'm a blind film critic who uses audio description to watch movies. I occasionally am able to watch a movie without audio description to try to talk about why I need audio description. But to try to watch a movie in another language at this point would be insane. So no, I did not watch John Woo's The Killer in another language to try to figure out an action movie. I don't know what that would have elicited in the thing. It's just easier to just admit and say, I have not seen it. I didn't even know this was a remake until it like popped up on Peacock that they were doing this film. So Salem's Lot is, you know, I of all the films of Stephen King's, I've never really heard anybody go, "Oh yeah, the Salem's Lot movies." But in both ways. I've never heard them be in the oof, Salem's Lot, you know, like, oh my God, you don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole. And then, but I've also, it's obviously not like Shawshank or Green Mile, or Carrie, Misery. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not one of the ones where you're just like, well, this is iconic. So it laid somewhere in the middle, and it just kind of like flew past me. And as I've as I tell people before, when like, well, why didn't you see that? It's like, well, I didn't know I was going blind in my 30s. So until I found out, and then rapidly became blind. So, you know, when you think you have years ahead, you don't like, you're like, well, I'll see that at some point. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't really take the priority list super seriously. And like, I'm going to start at number 1 on IMDb Top 250, and I will work my way in order. And then I'm going to move over to the AFI lists. And we're going to get through all these lists. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, they're on the list, and I'll see them at some point, yeah, and along with the new stuff, and we'll mix it up. You know, I'll touch on some directors and get different years and time periods, and just a smattering. And I have a smattering. But sadly, not the Salem's Lot films. This has Lewis Pullman, who was recently in that Lessons from Chemistry. Not really a star. Another reason why this film probably went to Max was they didn't actually cast anybody in this that would send a movie theatrical. Yeah, I stand by that. Even with everybody else who was in here, I was like, nope. None of these people. IMDb has Spencer Treat Clark credited on a character that I'm pretty sure is like 10, which I think is weird. So I'm kind of confused because he's like 35 now. He was the kid from Gladiator and Unbreakable back in the day, and we saw him grown up more recently in Glass. So he's an adult. So unless that's Spencer Treat Clark Jr., which it could be, you know, I thought that was an interesting casting choice. Yeah, there's just a bunch of people, a bunch of random faces in here of people who show up in things and just kind of character act their way through life. Alfred Woodard and I know some of these names, but they really are. They're all like, oh, that guy, oh, that guy, oh, that guy. Bill Camp is in here. They're all like, but none of these people scream, oh my God, theatrical release. So if Stephen King was really that surprised, they probably should have tried to find somebody to put in the film so that it could feel like it was headed theatrical, because there's nobody here that screams there's everybody here screams streaming to me. Everybody here is just like, this screams like a streaming release. And the director isn't even like, it's not like this is like Salem's Lot by Ari Aster, you know? It's just like, oh, it's just some guy. All right, cool. It's not even like one of those directors that has like a massive following, like Fede Alvarez or something like that, where you're going to be like, oh, well, I'm going to go see what Fede is doing. Nope. This one has to live and die on its own as the third Salem's Lot adaptation. Fourth, if you count the stuff that was included in Castle Rock, which I did see. So that was my sort of loose introduction to Salem's Lot, was through Castle Rock, which references Salem's Lot in one of the seasons fairly heavily. So we have a writer that returns to his small town of Jerusalem's Lot, but there's a sign that has lost the J-E-R. E-R? How many? I don't know. Now I've lost the ability to spell Jerusalem. Jeru. Jerusalem? This is going to be the best moment in my thing ever. This is why not editing is fun. So yeah, Jerusalem's Lot is the name of the town, but because of one sign, the movie gets called Salem's Lot. So, which is funny because it's like the Salem witch trials, but this is a vampire movie, so none of it makes any sense. I love that Stephen King did tons of cocaine back in the day. He was like, "What am I gonna do? Oh, I'm gonna make a movie called Salem's Lot, which references witches, but it's gonna be vampires. It's gonna really fuck with people." Um, so yeah, he moves back to the small town, and then he starts sort of noticing unsettling things, and the movie is so slow. This movie is so slow, but then actually, I would say third act, I loved it. Like, I really like the third act of the film, but the first two acts of this film are so slow. So slow. We're being introduced to characters at like the slowest pace. It's like, well, we have to introduce you to everybody in town because they're slowly going to either be killed off or turned into vampires. So you must meet everybody. Fuck me. That's act one. That's chapter one. You know, that is the beginning as well. And then act two is what something sinister this way comes, you know, like what is this? Oh, vampires. Ooh, what do we got going on? And then act three is really just sort of like the uh sort of the culmination, the fight. Is anybody going to survive this? Who's going to win? Who's going to come up on top? That kind of thing. So, and that was way more interesting than anything else. And, um, yeah, I, it plays pretty much like a pretty standard vampire movie at that point. It doesn't really offer anything new. It's paced better. And after spending the first 2/3 of the movie going, well, this is, it's one of those films that actually gradually picks up pace. First act is really slow. Second act is a little bit faster because they start kind of being like, "Ooh, there's something happening," and third act is like, "Wow, okay, this is what we're here for." So it's one of those films where if you're kind of getting bored at the beginning, just fast forward. Don't give up on the film. Just fast forward. Uh, it's just, I would encourage you to not quit the movie. What you're looking for maybe at the end of the film. So if you're feeling like, man, this movie's really slow, is it ever scary? Is it ever spooky? Is there any violence or just fast forward. Just get like the hour mark in the film, and from that point on, you should be doing a lot better. Um, yeah, uh, if, I'm not gonna say there isn't anything in the first hour. I mean, some of these people are really good character actors. It's just none of them are. John Benjamin Hickey doesn't anchor a film. Nobody opens a film with John Benjamin Hickey and goes, "Oh yeah, I'm going to go see that movie with him, box office star." You know, what's he gonna? Is he gonna be the next Iron Man? Like, no. It's just sadly that's not his path forward. They're all character actors and they all do fine jobs in their roles. And again, this just feels like somebody adapted Salem's Lot. I don't know. Having not seen the others, I don't know if this has a new perspective or a new angle, or if it has anything to say. If it feels like this is a more faithful adaptation, maybe this is the one that Stephen King actually likes because the previous two were not. Maybe that's why he was so adamant about this one going to theaters. Is because he feels like maybe this one finally got his book right. I don't know, but I would not. If I wrote a book and then this was the movie that was based on my book, I'd be like, it can go to streaming. I'm fine with that. There's nothing here that screams theatrical, although it's just like the general reaction seems to be that this film is better than Joker for all you do. So, mainly because Joker is so bad. Um, so yeah, I don't have really a problem with the acting. I just pacing. Uh, for a Stephen King adaptation, when I kind of lay them all out, all the ones that I've seen thus far, this would be on the lower end. Uh, you know, audio description was pretty nice. It's William Michael Redmond, so fuck yeah. He's great on horror movies. I love that. I love the use of William Michael Redmond on horror movies. He makes things inherently sound scarier for some reason. Um, if I ever meet him, I'm gonna have him do my voicemail message. Please leave him a call. You have reached. But like, oh my god. I don't know if I want to leave this dude a call. He might kill me. Um, yeah, so it's there's a lot of like glowing eyes and stuff that you have to watch, and is somebody bad or not bad, or where's the light, because there's a lot of, because vampires, it plays by the usual rules of vampires, so like sunlight hurts them, kills them, whatever. Sometimes it really is about like, uh, where's the shadow versus where's the light, and where somebody's standing in correlation to that. Really specific things that you have to pick up on in audio description, which I think are kind of amazing. So just like spoiler free, I didn't say anything. I didn't tell you who lives, who dies, or anything like that. I just put it out there in the world for you to consume so you can live it. But yeah, Lewis Pullman is the lead. So if you enjoyed Lessons in Chemistry, well, he's back. I guess we're trying to make him happen. I think he's been in something else recently too. Guy just pops out of nowhere. I'm just like, where did you even come from? Why is Hollywood trying to make you happen? Anyway, I'm gonna give Salem's Lot a C. I don't really have a point of reference to really be too mad at it in terms of a Stephen King thing. Because the previous films don't have audio description. Last year I did the Pet Sematary movies, obviously, because there was a new Pet Sematary Bloodline. And at least by the time I got to Bloodline, I had watched, every other Pet Sematary movie. So I had like a point of reference to know, well, is this film any good? And it's like, well, let's talk about, Judd, and we got to make sure you better your dog down there. I don't know about the fucking love Judd. But with this, I haven't seen the previous film, so I can't even be that mad at it. It's possible that if they had audio description and I watched the two previous Salem's Lot films, that my grade would change based on like relativity. But while I thought the film was slow, the third act was interesting enough that I was like, oh, I was like awake and paying more attention. I was like, wow, oh, okay, we're getting it. It's some stuff is happening. I'm here for it. So kind of like third act made it worth watching. So that's it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys on the other side.